I sent you. Sorry, I'm gonna say your credentials probably wrong, and you can like say them better. I describe you as an expert in consent, like I did when I made the video with you about consent and women's abuse. Why are you like? What gives you credibility in that? Hey,
Yeah.
hey,
Um,
somebody online.
Hello. So I have been working and like studying abuse, power dynamics, violence and violence prevention and response to violence for nearly a decade now. And I have been in different roles that have required me to provide support or provide prevention. I have done work on college campuses where I provide support to college student survivors. I've done work where I've educated college students on topics like consent, sexual violence, prevention, intimate partner violence, all those kinds of things. Both as like a student and then also as a personal person in a more professional role where I'm developing curriculum. I'm educating students who then go out to educate other students. I do a lot of advocacy work in the role that I'm in. And then I am also now back again volunteering with a local nonprofit that does a lot of sexual violence, domestic violence, and human trafficking prevention and response work. I've written papers, none that have been published necessarily, but papers that have dissected different concepts and explored different models of consent or different perspectives on things like survivorship or power and control dynamics. So, yeah, I have just a hodgepodge of different experiences that are connected to kind of like academia and all that kind of stuff. But then in addition to that, I also have experience of being a survivor myself. And over time, I've come to realize that basically my whole family is riddled with survivors of sexual and intimate partner violence, with abusers of sexual and intimate partner violence, and then of people who kind of are both, where they have been victimized and also um, abused others in that way. So I have, yeah, just this like more academic side and then also that more like personal side to all of these things.
Do you think that it gives you and I'm not about to like interrogate you on your credentials. I'm just personally curious. Do you think it makes it do you think it makes it more able for you to have like more nuanced uh ideas about like abuse, like sexual or like physical abuse, having both sides of it? Or does it make it harder to see the nuance in things?
Great question. I think that honestly, I think the thing that allows me to explore the nuances and hold the complexity is having realized that there are folks who commit this kind of abuse and who are victimized by it at the same time. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's like a mutual thing. I think that's especially with all of the stuff with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, there's this idea of like mutual abuse, and I think I need to do more research in there, but my like stance right now is that mutual abuse doesn't necessarily exist, that it's more of a reactionary abuse where like there's somebody who instigates harm and then we react to the harm, and that may also be a harmful response, but it's us reacting and trying to protect ourselves. So what I'm talking about more is that like somebody may experience this kind of violence and then also inflict it on another person. Maybe it's not the same kind of violence, but it's still abuse in some way. So I think holding that as true for my family allows me to hold that as true for others. In addition to that, I have done work with folks that I did not know were people who caused harm or were perpetrators or abusers or whatever language. And they have told me that through the way that I've held their humanity, that is what has allowed them to heal themselves and like heal from the sense of like even wanting to or thinking that that's okay. And once I learned that that was something that I was doing without even knowing it, I like just came to the realization that like people who cause harm are also people. And maybe it's really hard to offer sympathy or offer empathy, especially in like really intense cases, right? Like intense serial cases and all that kind of stuff. But I think when we're able to hold humanity, we're able to get at these like root pieces, right? The things that have contributed to the harm that has occurred, whether it's socialization, whether it's our own experiences with abuse that we just continue to perpetuate in our lives, whether it's like, frankly, from like watching shit on TV and internalizing that, or, you know, in whatever other context. Um, so I think, yeah, I think that those are kind of the reasons that I can hold these just like complexities with it.
Okay. Uh, yeah, I think that sometimes good people do bad things.
Hmm.
And I don't know if that
And
makes you a bad person because you did something bad or a good person. I don't necessarily think that. I think that a lot of bad people do a lot of really good things too.
yeah, and oftentimes I don't even look at people as good or bad. I look at the behaviors. So, you know, you might have been a person that did some real shit in the past. Have you acknowledged it? Have you tried to access resources to not do that shit thing again? Have you held yourself accountable? Have you asked other people to hold you accountable? Those are the things that I think counteract or rebalance when we, you know, maybe do these shit things in our lives.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Um, I think that the accountability thing can be really hard. Um,
Hmm.
I think I think the idea can be really hard too because I think that sometimes I don't know. I think I don't want to get too far off track here. I think that would
Sure.
take us down
Yes.
a really long path. So, for context, I sent you the excerpt of the Real Doll review. Uh, it's titled "You're My Real Doll," and it was the last 31 minutes and some odd seconds of Mr. Grill's review of his Real Doll sex doll that he got given to him for free. And I sent it to you, and you were in class. And I said,
Yeah.
what do you, what, I'd like you to watch this and talk to you about it. Because I think I said something like, everybody, everybody's really upset about it, and I think that they're all wrong.
Hmm. Yep.
And I didn't give a shit what anybody else said to me. I knew that if I talked to you and you told me that I was dead ass wrong, you'd be willing to have a conversation with me, and that one of us wouldn't be in the same spot afterwards. And it was important to me to know who would move, because it would be an honest moving. It wouldn't be like like it's not like a. I'm not gonna come in like trying to like make you look dumb or bad. Like I know we're both going to try to inform the other person the best we can, and be willing
Yeah.
to move. So, oh my god, I've been waiting so long to ask you this. Like, we're supposed to do this like 3 days afterwards, but because the way I frame it is that because men are really terrible with making her have a lot more work to do, we haven't been able to have this then. And I was supposed to beat Mr. Grill to his video. You're jealous of my relationship video. He did this, but just him telling other people why that they're wrong. Uh,
Interesting.
and I agreed with every single thing that he said, and I had one issue with something that he did in the review, and I paid $5 to send him a super chat, and he agreed that it was wrong. And I was the only person that got him to say that he was wrong. I'm super proud of
Whoa!
that. Out of like everybody, his fans and other creators, he did concede that point to me. So
Dang.
if at any point in this, after after like some time has passed, if you want to tell me the thing that I think Mr. Grill did everything correctly. I think the worst thing he did is at some points he was kind of a dick. That I think that's about as bad as it got, which is probably expected of anybody who has conversation that escalates like that. I think that's fine to be kind of a dick sometimes when you're charged.
Hmm.
Well, it's not nice, but it's real, and it's not
Hmm.
inherently shitty to be kind of a dick when you're upset. So, what do you think? What did you think of it? Tell me your opinions.
Yeah. So also for some context, I've watched this video twice. The first time I watched it, I was technically in class, but it was not a class that I was feeling very attached to. And so I watched it and then would pause and maybe go back to class for a little bit, and then I'd watch it and then pause and all that kind of stuff. And my initial reaction, and part of this still holds true. So I guess I should say first and foremost, even though I have a lot of knowledge in this area, for the most part, I don't know that I can really claim a relationship to be abusive or not. I say that because relationships look different for anybody that's involved in those relationships. I recently did a workshop with one of my like best buddies in the whole wide world, all about relieving ourselves of relationship expectations. We often get really caught up, and I'm saying we like kind of just broadly as people, we get really caught up in labeling our relationships as healthy or unhealthy or abusive or toxic or whatever it might be. But I don't know that any of us really have the capacity to do that because we are not in those relationships. So I think I just wanted to like put that as like my fundamental perspective here is that I can't tell from a 30-minute clip or even like further than that necessarily if it is abuse or not, right? There's like some clear indications, but again, it goes back to like how are the people in the relationship feeling? How is it serving them? What are their dynamics? All that kind of stuff.
First of all, it's
And
based as fuck. But can I ask you?
yeah,
You can still can you still tell me like what you felt in the moment? Because I know that like you can know all that
yes,
shit, but like sometimes somebody will do something and you'll feel very strongly something that throws
totally.
everything that you just said right out the fucking window, and you have to bring your shit
Yeah.
back afterwards. So I want to know about that too.
Absolutely. And I think that's the first time I watched it, I was like, fuck this guy. Like, I hate everything about the way that he's communicating. I think he's incredibly disrespectful. I think he's incredibly problematic. And I also saw, and sorry, her name is Shaylin, right?
Yep.
So I also saw problematic things in the way that she was responding and all of that kind of stuff too. But I was more in the realm of being like, this guy sucks. Like he's really mean. He's really condescending. Like all that kind of stuff. My notes were so riddled with just being like, this may not be abusive, but I hate it. Like kind of stuff. Um, and then I rewatched it today,
Mm-hmm.
and I agree with you. I think that there are times where he's just being a butthole, and it makes sense. We can't always be non emotionally reactive to the shit that's happening around us. So I don't necessarily hold that as like the worst thing in the world or even a bad thing. I think it was just raw. I think that these were two people having a really raw conversation. Um, and I think it is hard to then have that go up where thousands, hundreds of thousands of people can watch it and then dissect it for themselves. Honestly, the conversation really felt so similar to a lot of the conversations I've been having with my current partner, where we just like sit in our shit together, where we know that something is not working for us, but maybe we don't know how to get out of it. So then we just both go like, that sucks and I'm mad or whatever it might be. Um, so yeah, that's kind of my overview, and then I have some like notes that I have taken.
Um, as I know a lot of his audience is they don't have a partner. I know a lot of them are, and like I know the audience super well. I've been moderating chat like since the second week of YouTube or something like that. So
Whoa.
after he got booted off of Twitch and went to YouTube, I was like pretty animate. As soon as the first time he asked for mods, I said something, and then I didn't want to push it. And the second time he asked for mods, I was like, "Yo, come on!" And he was like, "Yes." And then somebody else asked right after me. He's like, "No, only people that like I like. If I see your name and I immediately know who you are, like then yes. Otherwise, no." And I was like, "Yeah, suck my dick, me, not you." Um, and I'm actually
Jeez.
and it was super cool for me. And that's I'm wearing my I got this T-shirt for free, no shipping or anything for being a mod.
Oh, that's sick. I
Uh,
fully thought that after you said the like, yeah, suck my dick part, that you were gonna follow up with being like, and they did.
and it was good, little toothy, but like it was good. No,
It was good, and I liked it.
I wonder how it would look like. It was good, but I didn't like it. What is my
An
metrics for
interesting
good?
review.
High level of skill, but not for me. Um, I like a poor performance. So it seemed really obvious to me that when they had the conversation, this wasn't a new conversation.
Yeah.
So that alone excused any kind of a like more visceral stuff, because when you like for me, if I'm really vulnerable and I want to talk to whether it be my wife or another partner about something, and I have to bring it up over and over again, when I hear
Yeah.
the same thing back, like I'm supposed to be repeating the thing because I'm the one with the issue bringing it to the table. But when they repeat the same thing back to me, that triggers the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
Because it's just like this downward spiral of like, you're not listening to anything that I say. It's like nothing's ever changed. It's like, why am I even trying to resolve the thing? I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And like you're shitting in my face for it. And so I can definitely get behave in a way that I wouldn't like to behave, like basically at any time. That I
Yeah.
don't necessarily like say like that's cool, but like it feels kind of justified to not have the faculties to like be polite in response.
Yeah, and I sort of see it from the other side too of like if this person, for example, if my partner is giving me the same response back, then they might be thinking like I've already fucking told you this, right? Like so they might be in the same spot too. And so absolutely, like if we're both feeling frustrated, if we're both feeling unheard, then we're not going to be our best selves because we don't I don't think we have the capacity, right? Like in that moment or in those moments if there are multiple conversations that happen, we're both exhausted.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. One of us is tired of not having our need met, and the other person is tired of hearing the same thing over and over again.
Hmm.
And like having to deal with it on nonstop. Um,
Yeah.
what? So maybe you have a difference of an opinion from the first time and second time watching. But what was when they started arguing? What were they arguing about? Because this is a thing that I've seen so many people get wrong, and I was curious to see what you
Yeah.
thought they were arguing about.
Yeah. So I think on the surface, they were arguing about like sexual dynamics, right? That seems like a the content, if you will, is about scheduling sex. It's about like the way that it's being presented, the way it's being received. Under that, though, I felt like the issue, or I kind of think that it's a multifaceted issue. So I think part of it is that they have very different communication styles that just are not jiving. At least in this video, things may have changed, or maybe that was just for that video.
It's
But their
possible.
communication tactics just like they really hit. And I think that is linked to the issue that Mr. Girl is really needing and expecting his partner to be able to be responsible for their own boundaries and for their emotions. And it doesn't seem like that's him saying, like, I never want to be consoling of you or anything like that, but rather, like, I am getting so confused because I don't know what is actually happening right now. I don't know. I think he even says somewhere in here like I don't know what's allowed.
Yeah. He
And
says, I don't know what I'm allowed
I
to
don't want
say.
to yeah, like it's like I don't want to have to worry about what's allowed or not allowed. I just want you to tell me and I want to know that that's true. And I
Yeah.
don't want it to and it's interesting because he keeps coming back to control, saying that she's trying to control. And I think that part of that is true, that there is this control element. Not even part of it. I think that that is true, that there's a controlling piece. And I think that under that controlling piece is anxiety. That there's a lot of like fear there, whether it's like a conscious fear or not, whether it's a fear that was found within the relationship or outside of the relationship. I think that there's fear, and I think you can even see that like right at the beginning. Like, sorry, I'm looking at my notes.
If you have a timestamp,
Um,
I can pull it up.
so it would have been around the 145, a little bit after. It's like right at the beginning when he brings up, oh yeah, he brings up that she's upset because he called her the sex doll, and he's like, okay, can you tell people what happened? And yeah, you can just play it.
Okay. You should be able to hear it through my side when I play it. Let me know if you can't, and I can fix it. Wait a minute.
I can't hear it.
I can't hear it.
Oh.
Oh wait, I think I have to switch this. Maybe that's why. Oh. There we go.
You were my sex.
Can you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
I have to change my Discord setting real quick. Oh no, it's a Google Chrome setting. Oh wait. No, I'm stupid. Because you're watching me. I gotta share my screen with you.
Whoa.
Can you see that?
I can see me in a little box, and then I see you, me, and Mr. Girl in a little box, and then I see the Discord, like, loading symbol thing.
You see the Discord doing its best?
Yeah, yep.
Fair enough. Let's see here. I'll just lower the frame rate and the resolution on that. I think it doesn't want me to do both right now. I'm gonna have to tweak settings for that later, but I'll send you.
That's okay, because I have, yeah, and I have, like, the notes pulled up of, like, there's a part where she just says, like, I think what happened, and then, like, goes through it, and so it seems like, and I think there's other times, too, of, like, her confirming with him. It seems like she's trying to confirm, like, reality, in a way. Like, trying to understand, like, did I perceive this accurately? And so to me, that, like, really shows that there's anxiety in some way. Like, just feeling stressed, feeling like maybe, you know, perception is inaccurate or things like that.
Yeah, I'm still gonna play it. I gave you a link. If you can watch it on that link if you want.
Cool.
It's just so I can keep everybody in the loop.
Really?
Do you want to do that or no? Just so I know when to play it. Okay.
Yeah, you can go ahead and play it.
Okay, so you've been pretty upset with me for the last few days because I said that you were my sex doll.
Right.
You want to talk? You want to tell people what happened?
Thank you for telling me, Josh.
I think what happened was that you leapt into bed with me, gave me a little cuddle, and then said, you're my real sex doll. And I was like, no. And you were like, yes, you are. And I was like, well, no, I don't like that you're saying that. It's freaking me out. I think, I think that you may have done this in response to me saying I was a little bit, like, anxious and needed some reassurance about the sex doll. Is that true? Or was I just thinking that?
I don't know.
Okay, well, I think I was thinking that, and I may have said it.
Well, I don't remember.
You can tell me when you want that part to stop.
Yeah, you can pause it now.
Okay.
I have another question that's, like, not really about their
Sure.
dynamic. Is eating oranges a, like, common, like, or I just...
Morgan hated that so much, how he bit into the orange. Everybody but me apparently hated how he bit into the orange. But somebody asked him about it, and it's like a anti-anxiety thing for him. He likes oranges, and when he's stressed, that's kind of like his go-to, like, comfort food. That actually took quite a while for that to come out, like to somebody to like ask it in a way. Oh. All right. How about that? Is that better? I know, like, I still sound fine to you, right? I sound pretty good the whole time.
Yeah, you sound fine to me, and
Okay, cool.
like the video, you sounded fine on my end too, like in the Twitch.
Okay. A good friend of mine said that I was clipping in stuff. At first I was too quiet, then I was loud and clipping.
Oh, but on my end.
Yeah, a bunch of people got really upset about the oranges, and he actually said the reason why he bites into them is because he doesn't want to dig his nail in and like bruise the fruit.
Ah,
So it's actually
interesting.
pragmatic. It's not just and I think I don't remember if he said it or not, but I think I find it hard to believe that he doesn't get like at least a little bit of joy out of like somebody being like, what? Because after a while you notice, like it could have been completely divorced from that to begin with, but like after people have the reaction, like that's fun. Like you still do what you were doing, but like it's a little bit better now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
See, and I think that's probably I don't. If she didn't think that he said that, I think it's weird that she tried to ascribe that to him though. I think that's kind of unhealthy. Then if he was like, I don't know, it doesn't like it was so not on his mind even now. Like they're like, I think she still tried to hold on to that a little bit. It's like there's a word for that. It's not like projecting. It's like she's like trying to like imprint something on the action that made her uncomfortable to make her more like comfortable with it. That's what I got out of that.
Yeah, and I think that's a also a way to look at it. I think that even if that is the case, even if that is like a unconscious intention, I think it is fueled by anxiety.
Sure.
Yeah. End of that sentence, I guess. Nothing more to add.
Well, I should say I like that she asked about it instead of assuming. But then it seemed like she's like I don't know. It seemed like she was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna keep that and still leave it on there. That seems like it's not good for her.
Yeah, and I think
nobody's fault.
yeah, she just seemed conflated, and then I think it's also kind of what he points out later too of like there's like a point where he says something about like you hold on, I gotta see where my notes are.
Yeah, by all means. I really appreciate you telling me about the audio, Josh. I literally did a clean wipe on my computer before this, just so like I wouldn't like OBS was kind of fucking up on me, so I totally wiped my computer. That's why I was late.
When they like really, it's like in the middle around like the 13 mark. We don't necessarily need to listen to it, but there's a point where he says, "You're changing what we're agreeing to be something that you will fight and complain about." And now you're saying no to something that I didn't ask, which is in relation to their conversation about setting up a sex schedule. But I think it's a similar dynamic here of like finding something to be upset with, right? It's like a way, and I should also have said like, I'm not judging these people in a like negative or harsh way. I did initially when I was like writing up my notes, but as I talk about it, I'm trying to be just a very like clear, this is just what I'm seeing, so I don't see these folks as bad people or good people or whatever, anything like that. But I see it as a way of like grasping at power. And ultimately, I think that this is what they're both doing, is trying to grasp at control, but there's not like a compromise in this control, or in these like perceptions of control.
Yeah, that's what he had said too. Like you're being controlling, and it's not necessarily bad, but I think in this instance he's saying like, this is my problem that I'm having, and I want to be in control of how I talk about it, and like whether or not I think that I'm getting the answer that I want to hear.
Right.
The biggest criticism that I've heard throughout, like from him to her, is that you're not actually expressing your boundary. And I need to know that because as the person who's going to have, generally speaking, a larger role in instigating a sexual encounter, whether you're married or you've been together for 5 minutes, it's really, really important to know, like, have an idea of when you're allowed to do that. Especially, like, it's, if you can't do it because you don't know, that means that you're being you're putting the other person's feelings about it ahead of your own, which I think both people should probably be doing in most cases, if they have no idea what the other person, where the other person's at. And so, like, not only is he's saying, like, I'm being so responsible that it's, like, hurting me, and I just need you to give me the information to where I can do right by you and not have it hurt me so bad. And it doesn't really come up for me when it's like for sex, but it has, and it's super important. Like, so now if I meet somebody who, like, I might want to date or something, I usually find out, like, what's okay, like, ahead of time. And like, I still, like I told you before, like, I like very much practice, like, threshold consent. Like, I'll ask before the first time I hold somebody's hand, even if we've talked about, like, all their kinks and everything, like, the day before. Like, that's big for me, but, like, I have to have some idea of, like, what's okay to talk about or, like, approach in the moment. Otherwise, like, I can't. And I think that a lot of people saw that as him, like, being, like, really pushy or demanding, but, like, I can't think of anything that's, like, more valid to push on. If it's like, hey, this is a relationship that has sexual elements to it, then, like, I really need to know, like, I need to, like, I don't need to see the entire frame, but I need to see the posts. Like you don't have to build the fence, but you got to put down the posts. I got to know, I have some idea that I'm about to run into a fence.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm not going to stay in this yard because it's scaring me.
Right, absolutely. And, like, within that, like, honestly, I'm wondering if it's like a tone thing. I, like, wrote that in my, like, current notes as, like, something I recognized right at the beginning. I wrote, he's very assertive, he is monotone. She is less assertive than him, she is also monotone. I imagine people perceive this as a lack of care or emotionality. And so I wonder if that's, like, part of where this, like, yeah, like, the perception of this relationship comes from is that it's not the way that other people would communicate. He's very clear. He's, like, again, very assertive. One of the most assertive people I've ever met. And within that, though, there is care. Like, there's a point, let's see. There's a point where she insinuates... Okay, yeah. There's a point where, like, she insinuates something like, oh, man, let me just find my notes. Oh, she says, so it's actually around this mark too, like 13, 16. She says something like, you can't spring stuff on me, and then insinuates, like, maybe you just want to, like, maybe you, and I think what she was insinuating was, like, maybe you just want to have this be, like, a rape relationship. And he explicitly says, like, no, I did not say that. I never wanted, like, never said that I wanted that. We said once a month. That means I can't just do it whenever I say. And that's where he brings in, but you're changing what we're agreeing to. So I just think that there's, like, an interpretation that comes through because of the tone, but he does demonstrate this care. He explicitly says, I'm not asking for this whenever I want. I'm asking that this be a component of our relationship and we figure out what that looks like for us. And so that really insinuates care to me. He's explicitly saying, I don't want to violate you. I want to figure out how to get my needs met within boundaries of our relationships, and I can't do that if you're not being straightforward with me.
Yeah, that's a really, really good way to put that. A lot of people. I remember the tone thing. So I know you've only seen this half-hour thing. Morgan tells me a lot that I talk the way that Mr. Girl does.
Interesting.
So a lot of times, especially if I get really emotional about something and or that I know that I'm going to, it's a really good way to control my emotions and to keep my thoughts clear. It's almost like I'll look down a little bit, and it's almost like I'm visualizing my words and then like watching them come out to make sure that everything's good. It's like a very monitored way of communicating, like self-monitoring, and it's a lot easier to do. I feel like when you let your tone go, if you let your emotion into your tone, you're gonna let your emotion go into your thoughts. And when it's super important, I think it's, for me, if I'm talking like that, it's a really clear sign that this is super important to me, and I want to make sure that it's heard so badly that I'm going to not only have spent a lot of time thinking about this, which is how I know how important it is to me, but I'm also going to make sure that there's going to be no way you can possibly misunderstand what I'm saying based on my tone or my body language. I'm going to be so conscious of everything that if you don't hear me, it's because you don't want to. Like that's the way it'll feel, because like this is like the highest amount of effort and like for me communicating. So that's the sense that I get when people talk like that. And I don't think that almost nobody has mentioned, at least loudly, about their tones. The biggest criticism that I hear is that he's trying to force her to do like sex stuff that she doesn't want to do, and that was never what he asked for was never contested once in this entire video. It was the way the argument started after that, when it started talking about like how scheduling was going to go and getting like kind of pedantic about the stuff. Because there was a certain point where she was like, how about once, he said once a month, she said okay. It was like, cool, like that's I think that's all he needed to hear, and this whole thing could have just moved away. And then she's like, so how do you want to do this? And it's just like, why? Like you can figure that out. Like, I'm not telling you I need an answer to the day or anything right now. I just want to know. I want to know that I have it once a month. That's all I wanted to know. And now it seems like, because if I was in his shoes, I would feel like, because now you know that I have that, now you want to fight with me about something that you can fight with me about, because like I know you don't care about that, but you care about like that I got something that I asked for, and for whatever reason that makes you feel weird, so now we both have to feel weird. And that would probably hurt my feelings a lot. It's like being punished for saying a hard thing. Because getting told no isn't being punished, but fighting with me about something that doesn't matter afterwards is. And it's done in a way that's like, I don't want to be overt about it. I want plausible deniability that like I'm trying to make you feel bad now. That's how I would interpret it.
I think I can see that, and I think I feel challenged by that in a way, because I know that I'm a person who asks a lot of questions, especially when it comes to things that make me uncomfortable. Like, in this situation, like, even though I don't think that the sexual desire of his is inherently violent, especially because he is going about it in such a consensual way, I think the idea that, like, I just, like, like, he is asking somebody to lay flat down and not move to have sex with them, like, that's just masturbation at that point. Like,
he says, I want to jack off with your body. He says that.
Exactly. And so for me, like, as somebody who has experienced sexual assault while I was asleep, like, I was like, holy fuck, that sounds awful. That sounds terrifying for me. I would ask all those questions as well. And it comes from a place of fear and anxiety. So I think I feel challenged a little bit by, like, hearing the, like, it's a way of, like, ruining this. Like, he said ruin so much in this video. Or that it's a way of, like, controlling it, because part of me is like, yeah, I want to have control because I've been out of control before in these situations. Or situations like it, and it sounds scary to me. And at the same time, I can hold that then, and especially he even says himself at some point, like, I'm sensitive and it feels hard when I want something to be for me, and I know part of it is for you. that like feels hard to me.
Yeah. He says if 90% of it's for me and that 10% of it's for you, all I'm going to be thinking about is that 10%.
Right,
Which
exactly.
sounds terrible, I think, to most people, but like, I think it's super hard to tell somebody that.
Right, exactly. It's like it may sound terrible, and if that's the situation, and it's also like it's I don't know. I like part
It's
of it is not
unfortunate.
terrible because I like. Have you ever heard of Dr. Betty Martin's consent wheel? I think that's the title of it is a consent wheel.
No, but I'm
The
about to
wheel
look
of
it up.
consent.
Doctor.
It is freaking awesome. I will give like a quick rundown, or maybe if you can pull up like a graphic of it.
I'm on it. Yeah.
And then I'll just like go through what these things mean because I like that's all I could think about like the second time that I watched it was this consent wheel. So we can see on this wheel, right, that we have these two axes that come together to kind of create this like square and quadrants, right? Hold on, let me get to my notes again. There's the you are doing axes at the top, and then there's the they are doing, and that's kind of a spectrum, right? And then there's the other axes where there's giving a gift and receiving a gift. So within the giving a gift and the you are doing quadrant, there is the serving or saying, yes, I will. Within the receiving gift and the you are doing quadrant, there is the taking or saying, may I. Within the receiving a gift and they are doing quadrant, there is accepting or saying, will you. And within the giving a gift and they are doing, there is an allowing or saying, yes, you may. And it seems like these two are really in the like taking and allowing dynamic. And so he is merely asking, can I have this from you? And she gets to say, yes, you can, or no, you cannot, within the circle of consent. And we can see when it's out of the boundaries of consent that on the taking side, it can turn into things like assault and rape for the taker, and it can turn into things like tolerance and passivity for the allower. And so when we don't have the ability to really communicate in this kind of dynamic, we can see how harm happens rather than a consensual thing. And within that, I think he is doing his best to stay within the circle of consent. And I don't know, like, I think it seems hard for Shaylin to really stay within the circle of consent. I think the anxiety often, like, pushes her out to consider, well, what about this element, or that element, or da-da-da-da, this and this and that. So I think it's worry that comes in. Hey!
She just got home.
I don't know if she could see that.
Yeah, I think that the consent is what makes all of this okay, and I think that yeah. So like he said, when he says that it seems like you're just setting this up to be something that you can fight me on later, basically what he's trying to, the way I see it is that he's saying that it seems like you're saying yes now with like the no already prepped away for later, and I don't want to walk into that. If it's no, just fucking say no.
Right.
I don't
Right.
want to spend a half hour finding out that it's going to be no later either. Just tell me what it actually is, where you're at right now, because I think that would drive me fucking crazy.
Totally. And I also question what's hard about saying no. Why is it that this, and I know nothing
God.
about this relationship, but wait, is everything okay?
Yeah, I just realized his best video to date.
created his water.
When I say the best one, I mean as far as everybody should watch this. I think you're going to think that it's like nigh perfect. It's about saying no. He has a video, how to say no
That
to
feels like
sex,
something.
and it's incredibly good. Like I think that people should show this to their teenagers. It's his most.
Yeah.
It's his most like most appropriate for like anybody ever video, and he makes pizza like from scratch while he does it.
That's amazing.
I'm gonna send you a link
And
to that.
that feels like exactly just based on the way that he's talking, the way that he specifically talks about boundaries and about saying no and all of that kind of stuff, that feels like a video he would make. And so within that, I would question, why is it not safe to say no immediately? And that, it seems like it wouldn't be because of Mr. Girl himself, who I don't really know that or not. It could be because of other circumstances outside of the relationship. It could have to do with sex, or it may not have to do with sex at all. But I would question that, right? Like, where is the difficulty in saying no? And well, I think that's a little bit different. So I'll just pause there of like, I just wonder why does no feel unsafe to say in the moment?
I think that, well, so I guess to give you additional context, every time he has her on camera, they have a fight about her trying to take control of whatever they're talking about. And I think that it always ends up with him looking like he's trying to, so like there will be a disagreement or there will be an agreement, and then that will happen. It's usually like she'll agree with him over something that's over a subject that's probably pretty loaded to anybody who's watching, and then they'll argue about the control thing. And I think most people don't have the capacity to go, oh, we're talking about a different thing now. Because even when I have that with whether it be my wife or a different partner, if we talk about something and then I move on, or I move off to the side to explain an idea about, like if I try to explain an idea and maybe come back to what we were talking about after explaining that, it seems like it's really hard for the other person to engage with what I'm talking about on the side without just like constantly trying to react to what I'm saying in the middle of it about how it applies to like what we were just talking about. Like, no, stop. Even if I want to bring it back to that, let's do that after I bring it back to that. I would like to run through like what I'm thinking here. So that way, if I do bring it back to here, we can have this in mind. And I think a lot of people just get in that. They're always trying to relate the thing back to the thing that made them feel uncomfortable. And they can't hear what happens after that, especially if it can apply. So that's a lot of their recorded interactions are unpleasant to watch. But that's kind of the point. He doesn't want you to see them when they're having a good time. He wants to show like how things really are. Wants to show you the ugly truth about relationships and how they work. And I think that there's a lot of merit to that, but I just think that your average person is not going to have the like observational skills and emotional maturity to suss out what's actually happening. They're just going to put themselves, most people are going to put themselves in the on the side of the person who they feel like is being aggressed and react to that. Which sucks because there's a ton of value into watching these interactions. And I think they're going to be completely missed, and like you're missing the whole fucking point. And it sucks because not only are you missing the point and you're upset with Mr. Girl, like that means you're not going to be able to hear any of the other things that I think are super valuable to get from watching the stuff that he makes.
Right.
He does a good job at weeding out the people that aren't going to listen. So maybe it's not entirely bad.
Yeah, and hopefully people can grow and come back to it, and hold stuff that didn't jive with them, but still find value in stuff that does.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, this is interesting. He also has another video called Consent is Complicated, where some people said that he raped a woman because of what happened in that story. So you should watch that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got mad at him for that, and they got mad at him for telling women they suck at saying no to sex too. And then like, here's how you should say it.
And I think that, granted, I have not watched this Say No to Sex piece, but I'm wondering if in it there's any kind of historical analysis of the power dynamics between men and women, because there is an explicit reason why saying no is very hard, and to make, like, I'm sure this video is great and I am going to watch it, And to make one however many minutes long video saying, here's how you say no to sex, like, hey, what if I say no to sex and then this guy kills me? Like, there are reasons why it's hard to say no, and just teaching somebody here's how you say it is not enough to make a broad sweeping change in our culture and in our society.
That's not the subject. So I think it's important to understand why people might be afraid to. However, so I think he explains it like, if you don't say, like, if your fear is, generally speaking, I think that most people are afraid, at least that's how it's vocalized to me when I have conversations about it, isn't as much getting murdered, is that if you say no, you're going to get raped. But the only way that it's rape is if you say no. So, I know that I've said yes to having sex when I didn't want to, for like, because it's uncomfortable or whatever, and that's probably the time that I liked it the least. So I think it's more about not putting yourself in a situation where a no would get you what you actually want, and not end up feeling like you essentially raped yourself by consenting to something that you didn't really want to. Because I know people that have absolutely felt like they've raped themselves because they said yes when they didn't want to, because they felt pressure that wasn't necessarily coming from the other person. And also too, like you give lectures on consent, you can expect that message to reach everybody. We still live in a world where people aren't going to have as good of an understanding. So when somebody says like not right now, they're going to hear like okay later.
Sure.
And they're not trying to be shitty. That's just how people think.
I do not view you as shitty, and I do not think. No, like, I know, I'm just saying. And I don't think, from my perspective, that it's really fair to say that people have raped themselves. I absolutely understand feeling a sense of violating the self. I have multiple times felt that way. And that guy still raped me. Like, and that I should say that's like a very personal, like, I'm definitely feeling like a defense in like my personal life of most of my high school experience was being raped all the time because I didn't feel like I could say no to this person.
Sorry.
And
that's not what it's about, but go ahead.
No, I was
about
just
soft
also
no's
say,
because it's uncomfortable to say no. Not because you feel like it's different when we're talking about the threat of violence looming over you. Like if you have a reason to think that. But it's like the soft no's is that he has a problem. It's not saying yes when you don't want to. It's like giving a soft no so that like more pushing will get you like when you're it's perceived to the other person that like, well, you could just maybe push a little more and I'll say yes, or like you could wait 5 minutes or an hour and then I'll say yes. Like it's, if you mean no, then like you should say like, I'm not going to do that. You know, something that's a little bit more clear. It's about soft no's. So you feel comfortable enough to say no in these situations, but you're not saying no because it's awkward or it's weird. That's when it's, I don't think that just because you say yes, you're necessarily consenting. Like we have a whole video on that.
Totally. And like, I think that even in those soft no's that then people are taking that as a, regardless of if it's a conscious decision or not, the thought to then ask, oh, maybe later is coercive to me. And that to me, yes, I agree. People, it would be so awesome if we could all just say no in the moment, if we knew it was going to be a no later too, and just avoid these soft no's, be assertive, all that kind of stuff. And I also think it is on part of our responsibility to also witness how people are responding to us. I use the example in my presentations where I say like, oh, if I ask my partner, hey, want to go watch a movie? And they go, sure, I guess. Does that person want to watch a movie with me? Hell no. It doesn't seem like it. I should at least double check with them that they actually want to. Because if I don't, I could coerce them into watching a movie or something further, right? If I am just going with my wants, needs, and desires and not considering theirs, that to me is on me. And that, I think that's just like my like perspective on life is that yes, we should be considerate of ourselves and we should acknowledge that sometimes saying the things that we actually want out of people is much easier to imagine than it is to actually do. And I think that goes back to trauma responses. stress and trauma responses, I should say, because there's not just fight or flight, there's also freeze, and there's also the idea of fawning or feigning, where it's an automatic reaction to people please, to breach our own boundaries, to exhaust ourselves in order to serve another person. And that often is not considered, or not even really known by many people. But it's still part of our nervous system. It's part of our responses, specifically as mammals, because we're such social creatures that we have immense fear of our social bonds being damaged. And so if me saying no is going to damage this relationship, my nervous system's going to kick in and be like, okay, I'll just go ahead and do it, or I'll do whatever pleases this person. And I think that has to be considered as we talk about saying no, because it's not just frankly, it's not just about saying no, I guess. There's so many. And not to say that you haven't also, like, I feel like in our conversations, at some point we've talked about the various things that contribute to why people do the things that they do.
Sometimes people say straight up no, and they don't mean it too.
Right, exactly. Absolutely. Like, it can be really hard to be authentic, frankly, I think is what it comes down to. It would be awesome if we could be authentic all the time, but it's just not the case.
I think you did a really good thing with the movie, because it happened last night, and I'm glad that it didn't get pushed. I was about to do something, and Morgan asked me if I wanted to watch a show, and I was going to do something else, and I was like, my immediate response, because like I'm not thinking about it, I'm just reacting to what she said. It's like, yeah, okay. And I closed down the game that I was going to play, and it's not that I didn't want to. I just, without thinking about it, I was like kind of bummed because I was going to do this, but like I can be bummed about not doing that and still want to do the thing with her too.
Totally.
I think that, but I think most of the time people don't actually weigh the two things very well.
Right.
I'm just a crazy person who spends way too much time thinking about how I think.
I think that's important, though. I wish more people thought about the ways that they think and the ways that they communicate. Because they're all so different, too. In addition to that, I wish that people thought about how others communicate and did their best to empathize, but I don't know that, I don't think that we are really taught empathy as like a whole society or culture. And so there's just such a disconnect.
His stated mission, which isn't necessarily always the case, but it seems to be a big theme, is empathy. He has,
and that's
He like I told you, like you know only this video from Mr. Girl, as per my request when I thought it was going to be a couple days to hold off on watching anything else so I could get your raw, unfiltered ideas about this video. You didn't watch any of Mr. Girl, so he got famous because he watched the movie Cuties. And he watched it and made a review, and in it he said that well, I'll just get rid of all the context. He said that the girls twerking in Cuties was kind of hot, and that's the point that the movie is trying to make, is that we're uncomfortable with the fact that young girls like 11, 12, 13, 10 even, they have like sexual feelings and desires, and sometimes they act that way, and that it's nobody wants to acknowledge that it has some effect on people, and it's not necessarily bad to talk about that. Like it's to say how Miss Grow would say it, it's like it's a spectrum. It's a problem when it's all the way over here. We're like, well, that's really fucking hot. Oh my god, that's a problem if you're like, oh yeah, when they did that in the movie, like, that's kind of hot. And now I have to deal with the fact that the movie made me feel that way. And he also said that it's unfortunate that they used actual children for it. And then kind of talked about how they juxtapose them being like actual acting like children, and then like 2 minutes later they'll stop doing child things and then like be twerking for the thing that they're practicing for. And so I think he said too, as being like a responsible movie, it failed, but as far as like making like a sexy music video, it did a good job. And so everybody was like, oh, you are a pedophile. And he got a ton of shit for that. And I think that like I've explained this to my the whole thing to my therapist, and she's like, that's not at all. No, that's like, that makes perfect sense to me. Like, that's fine. But you can't say that to people who are online because they're all insane. And so then he made a music video covering Eminem's Criminal called I'm a Pedophile. So instead of every time you'd say I'm a criminal, he said I'm a pedophile. And the music video is brilliant, and he's a really good rapper. So he just sort of leaned into it, and then there was like a gap of like no content for a little bit again, and he came back and started streaming. But he focuses a lot on and I think we're getting the curated non-streamed video like documentary he's making about pedophilia soon. It's like on empathy. The big thing he said is, if I can get people to empathize with pedophiles, like the most hated group of people in the entire world, then that's a really long way to having people feel empathy for like everybody else. Like if you can feel empathy for a pedophile, then you can probably be empathetic for somebody who voted for another person for president really easily.
Interesting.
Which, since you know literally nothing about it, he's not saying that we should be okay with people attacking or assaulting children at all.
Right, totally. Frankly, the way that I'm perceiving it is that I haven't seen Cuties. I just did not have interest in any of it.
I still haven't watched it. I'm going to.
Yeah. And so I can see what he's saying of like, these girls are being sexualized, therefore it is like not shocking for people to view these behaviors as sexy, as hot, whatever it might be. And I can appreciate him talking about like this kind of spectrum of like, it is one thing to have a thought or to perceive something in a way. It's another thing to desire it. It's another thing to act on it. It's another thing, XYZ.
Yeah. God, you're going to be a fan. I'm telling you. All the ways that you talk about the things that he talks about, I think that you're a Mr. Girl fan waiting to happen. I think you're going to get upset a lot and then think about it and be like, shit, that was actually brilliant.
Yeah, I imagine so. Probably because it seems like fundamentally we agree on a lot of things, and like the ways that he communicates, I imagine, are going to ruffle my feathers. Just because it did, in this 30-minute clip.
Yeah.
And not necessarily like the monotone stuff, but like how often he said shut up. Like I was like, shut up, feeling defensive in that way. And that's fine, right? Like holding the fact that maybe that pisses me off and like this content is still quality.
Yeah. Another fun fact I know because I'm a super fan. Somebody asked him why he, because he calls her names too, or when he says shut up. Somebody asked him why he does that. He said, I think I just need to know that I can say all these nasty things and that she's still going to be there. Like that no matter, like, that she understands what's happening and that she's not going to leave him, and basically bringing out all your worst as much as you can, just so that you know that, like, when things do get to that point naturally, that it's not going to be the end of the world. Like, I need to know up front that you're not going to abandon me when I have a bad day.
Right.
Kind of deal.
Right. Yeah. I don't necessarily agree with the philosophy, but I can understand it. I can empathize with it.
I don't think that it's a wise thing that people should do, but I understand how somebody could need that.
Right. Yeah, I think it goes back to him saying that he's sensitive. Like, that sounds also like, in a way, like being driven by this fear, by this anxiety, but just in a different avenue.
When I asked, I don't remember who it was, content creator that's like on his level in size, what's one of the things that you think people misunderstand the most about Mr. Girl? And they say, like, how sensitive that he is. I think a lot of people think that he's not, and I've seen him cry in videos.
Yeah, well, and that's what he's asking for, is vulnerability. Like, he says it somewhere in there that, like, I am asking you to be vulnerable by saying no. It is a vulnerable thing to say no, especially to your partner, especially when it comes to sex, especially knowing how important sex is, that he is saying, like, we have to have sex in this relationship, or it is no longer a romantic relationship. It either turns platonic or it crumbles, or, whatever else. So that, like, requesting vulnerability is vulnerable yourself, right?
Oh,
to
yeah,
say,
big
like,
time.
Get down in this with me and be real with me, be authentic. I'm doing my best to be authentic here. Please do your best too. Like, that's vulnerable as shit.
Yeah, I think when you're doing it, to like put it in words that like I think is easier for most people to grasp, because I don't think a lot of people think of that in terms of being vulnerable. Like, you gotta like let yourself just be a little bitch about it. You gotta be sad, and you gotta be like,
Yeah.
you gotta like totally bitch out and say what you really think, and not try to like mask it at all. And I think
Absolutely.
it's hard, and it's really really difficult when you do that and the other person doesn't.
Yeah. It is, because it's
It's like I showed you
the
my
way
belly
that
and you hit me.
yeah, honestly, yeah. My partner and I refer to these tough conversations as sitting in the shit. um and so if you're sitting in the shit and another person is sitting on high ground, oh, it feels awful. Like,
Yeah.
I just dug through this fucking manure, and you're telling me whatever your perception is up there? Like, no, come down here with me. Like, sit in this fucking shit with me, and then let's, like, fucking carve our way out of it together.
Yeah. I know you don't have a lot of time. I've already pushed back the time that you said, and it's totally my fault for not being ready.
It's okay. I noticed the time. I was going to say something in a couple minutes because I have a little bit of wiggle room here.
Cool. So, what do you think about the video overall? Like, the criticisms of him are that he's straight up being abusive. I see nothing that constitutes abuse from him in this, except for, do you have any idea what I might have thought was bad?
I don't know for sure, but I'll tell you some things that I found problematic.
Okay.
I find it problematic that he's so focused on her control, but then has no, like, does not state his own control, really. Like, he does in the way of saying, like, this is what I want. But he is so focused on saying things like, this is how you're controlling, asking questions is controlling, when he also asks questions. So I thought that was just, and not to say, like, oh gosh, it's so wonky, because it's like they were obviously talking in the heat of the moment, so again, no judgment there, but I think in reflecting, acknowledging the fact that they're both fighting for power and control is something that is just a little problematic. It's a problematic pattern. I also thought it was problematic for him to say, like, he kind of thought that, like, maybe having this doll might make her a little jealous, or that it could be an outlet for him. I think intentionally wanting to make your partner jealous is not a great way of navigating relationships. And, like, and again, no judgment on him, but
Elder,
that, like, probably shouldn't want to do that. And then there was one more thing. Oh, the conversation, I think it was at the end of her, saying, like, you're the one that has power, like, you have the camera, you're not thinking about how the camera impacts me, or these questions on camera impact me, or the fact that there's going to be an audience who witnesses, and he really, like, does not see his power as also holding some responsibility for her well-being in, like specifically with the camera on. I just think that's a problematic way of navigating power, because to me, if you have power, that means you have the most access to whatever the thing might be. And so to say that it is not your responsibility to then navigate boundaries and navigate emotions, like, no, it's not your sole responsibility. And he even said, like, that's what it feels like, is that I have the sole responsibility, and I don't want that. And it shouldn't be his sole responsibility, but there should be some responsibility there. There should, to me anyway. For example, the way that you navigated this, like, you checked in with me right at the get. You asked me about my ground rules, you asked me about my boundaries, and you let me know that it is okay for me to then, like, figure out my boundaries as we go. It does not seem like that type of conversation happens when he has the camera on, or even before it. I don't know that that's true. That's just my perception, but those were the, like, kind of bigger problematic pieces. That, and, like, this last bit that I'm going to say is much more of, like, a personal thing. I really hated how much he said, you have to have sex with me. I get that he was saying, like, you have to have sex with me because sex is a meaningful part of a romantic relationship, and therefore, if there is no sex, there is no romantic relationship. I wish he would have said that sooner, because to just say, you have to have sex with me, it's not that you don't have any limits. Yeah, like, the have to piece is really uncomfortable. Again, I
that's the point.
understand what he's saying, but like just to land it with like you have to have sex with me, like okay, okay, like, and even saying like there's a part where he says like something about the like it's not that you don't get to have any limits, it's that there's a limit to your limits.
Which is
Again,
true.
I understand. Yeah, I understand what he's communicating, and that is deeply uncomfortable to me. So that's why I'm like, that's more of a personal thing. I don't think that that's like inherently problematic, but I think the language is pretty intense and feels very domineering in a way that I'm like, ugh, I do not like that. But again, personal.
Yeah, I actually liked those things. It made me uncomfortable too. No, well, hear me out.
I am.
It did make me uncomfortable. Because she's saying, well, I don't have to have sex. I said, no, you do. You have to. Like, you get to say no, but you can only say no so many times to where this becomes something different. So, like, and then, like, that's established, and he's like, so you have to have sex with me. And then he's like, you have to. You have to. And I think it was him trying to drive this point. Like, I don't want there to be any point in your head where you get to go like, well, yeah, but he's just like, no, this is the reality of it. I don't want you to later think I meant something different. I don't want you to pretty it up. Like, I know this is uncomfortable for you to hear. Like, there's no way in his mind it's not uncomfortable for her to hear. And I don't think it's comfortable for him to say either. But it's like, we need to be super clear about this. Like, this has to happen, or, like, we aren't us. And then explain the mechanics of it. Like, this is what happens when that happens. And, like, I will always respect your no's. But eventually the no's will make this relationship not worth me being in. It's just something different, and we understand that. I think that he's doing the uncomfortable thing that ends up being the more responsible thing overall.
Sure.
Which feels bad. Do you remember somebody we worked with? I talked them into not like directly, but I told them that sometimes doing the right thing. Usually doing the right thing isn't the easy thing or the thing you want to do, and then they did the thing.
I don't remember the situation in particular, but I know that you've said that.
Somebody was very afraid to tell their parents about how they felt about something.
Oh.
And then they did it.
And then
They
off stream, but like, was
Yeah.
it a thing that they like then were mad about afterwards, or no?
No, it actually turned out to be a really positive thing. You say it was about religion.
Oh, that's what I thought this was about, but I thought it was not a positive ending for some reason.
Maybe later on in the future, but they told me like it was pretty chill. Like, it was not great like in the moment, but like they talked and it was good. And I think that that's kind of what happened there.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I felt uncomfortable too with it, but I was just like, no, he's right. He's right. Like, I wish that I could say something that uncomfortable directly so that nobody has to wonder. I really try really hard to be extremely direct with my communications, but sometimes I can't drop the bureaucracy of it because I don't want to. This is scary. It'd be scary to say that like him.
Yeah,
But
I agree, and I agree that it I imagine it was really uncomfortable for him, and I still am just the language itself is really it feels gosh, what's the word? It feels very constraining. Like, it feels like even though he did not say this at all, to say you have to have sex to me, and I think it's because of being a survivor myself, then implies if I don't have sex, you will then make me. That I have no choice in it. And I know he is not saying that at all. There's multiple times in the video that he does not, like, he very explicitly says, like, this is only about consent, and this is only about me saying that my need in a romantic relationship is sex. And I just took issue with it as being like, ugh, I don't like that. But I can recognize all of the points that you're making of, like, it is a very clear way of saying, like, this is it. There's no misinterpretation of saying that.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people try to, if they get the balls to say something that's that direct and uncomfortable, they will let the other person caveat it for them, even if that caveat's not true, and be like, okay, well, I said the thing, I did my part, I did what I was supposed to do, and that's it. I'm good. Okay, I said it. And so when she doesn't have sex with me for 5 more weeks and I leave, like I told her, and I did the thing, and you'd be like, well, no, you kind of allowed them to believe the thing that they said afterwards. But, like, you didn't want to argue it. That's fine. You don't have to argue it, but like you probably should have clarified at some point before you up and left.
Right.
That kind of thing. So overall, what do you think? Do you think that he was abusive in it?
I don't think that either of them were abusive. I think that it was problematic. I think that there was like inappropriateness. I think that there was, whether it was conscious or not, I think there were attempts at manipulation. And I don't think that it's fair for me to classify that as abusive or not. Especially because, like, I've only watched 30 minutes of them. Like, I have no idea. This might have just been a really shitty argument, you know? Like, or not, I shouldn't even say really shitty, but more just, like, felt really shitty. Like, ouch, that stung. And ouch, I saw some, like, problematic patterns. But I don't think it is fair for me to say abuse.
Somebody said that oh shit, abusive shit. It was a really important point to this too. So I don't think it's abusive. Oh yeah, you said that there's some manipulation. I agree on both sides, and I'm very confident that he let it slip when he talked to Destiny. I think that the whole purpose of him maintaining the power and using the camera in that situation was to try to manipulate her into having a boundary. I think that this whole thing, and he said it, and like he moved on from it really fast. I think that he feels like it's ruined if he talks about it. He was trying to help her through this whole thing. I feel it feels very deliberate. Like not only do I need it, but you need so badly to figure out how to say what you think and feel. And I don't care if I have to be a dick to make you do it, because like you're hurting yourself so bad. And that seemed to go over everybody's head. And it's frustrating.
Absolutely. I think that that's like the bottom line here is that, like, sure, there's like this whole sex conversation, but I think that can be very distracting for people. I think that's why consent can be really complicated when it comes to like sex or intimacy, is because we get so caught up in the sex and not almost anything else. But that is such a massive point to me in this, is that I think my like bottom of my notes, I put, it seems like he is upset that she cannot manage her own boundaries, setting and overall console her own feelings. And then makes that like his responsibility to do so. And so I think he is saying, like, not only for me do you need to navigate this, but exactly what you said, for you, so that you can move through this world confidently, almost, right? Like, confident that you know what you want and what you don't. And if you don't know what you want, then you can say that too. But it's hard to know when that is authentic versus when it's, and I don't know because I'm too scared to say no. So I agree. It feels like, I don't think that maybe this was the best way to go about it, but I can agree that this was a demonstration of care, even if it was some tough care, care to encourage her to be authentic, at the very least with him.
I think that, so there's a lot of problematic stuff, but I think this is one of the best examples that I've seen of doing this responsibly, like, ever. Like, we can always aspire to do better, but like, people don't do this. Like, this shit's very, very rare. And it really makes me upset that people took to getting angry at this instead of being inspired to have hard conversations, really assert your boundaries, and say how you feel without, on purpose, trying to make the other person feel bad. That makes me really mad. That this is, I think this was a really important video, especially for people that didn't like Mr. Girl to see, and Jesus, everybody took it a really, really bad way. The thing that I didn't like is he called her a monster.
Yeah.
And that was bad on its face, but also that's, if you know the lore, you'd know that his ex-wife used to call him a monster, or she'd call him the monster, and it was really bad for him. And when somebody else he talked to talked about how they would talk to people and tell them, they're the first person that would say that you're not a monster, I see you as a person. She's like, do you have any idea what that feels like for them? And he had tears in his eyes, and I nudged Morgan and I was like, she's doing it for him right now. And he's like, you're doing it for me right now. And I was like, oh, I knew it. So I called him. I said, like, I don't think that was right. Because that's, you used something that was to hurt you. You were upset and you threw it out at her. And so before you go, I just want to show you, I recently told him that he'll read what I said. I paid $5 for this. And I think the context changes a lot of things because of how this is. This is on his bombastic call-in show. I've been on a few times. This is just a super chat.
Drazi, I gained double respect for you when you said calling her a monster was wrong and you wouldn't do it again. That was the only bad you did in the review. Shaylin! Shaylin! You're a fucking monster! You're a monster, and you always will be! Thanks,
What did
Drazi.
Shaylin do this time, girl?
Shaylin! You're a monster. Drazi said that he respects me for saying I wouldn't call you a monster again. Yeah, I'm just streaming. I'm spiting my audience, that's right. It's nice to be understood.
I lost my fucking shit. I was in the line for Del Taco, and I'm like spazzing out, like hitting my steering wheel and laughing and shit. And Morgan hit me in the ribs. She's like, "Stop it! It's not funny." I was like, "This is more than I could have ever asked for. This is brilliant." And like, obviously, I wasn't upset with that because the context was totally different, and she wasn't upset with it. And I think I really liked it how that, like, just the thing that I clipped ended to is, it's nice to be understood. That was probably one of the most positive interactions between the two of them, and it happened because he said what I thought was like the worst interaction between two of them. I helped make a little art on that one.
Oh my goodness.
The contrast, you don't see it?
No, I do, absolutely.
Took the worst scene out of this review and like redid it in a way that showed their connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, it's interesting. I'm currently in a course on family therapy, which is also couples therapy. And we just recently talked about taking the bit, which is like what folks sometimes do to like lighten a conversation or to offer grace or to shift it in a way. And so to me, that was like a demonstration of her taking the bit, right? Like recognizing that this is a much different context, right? Like he's not harming. He's not attempting to harm. He's recreating meaning in a way. And then for it to follow up with the I feel understood piece, or it's nice to be understood piece, like, yeah, like you can only receive that understanding from somebody who is genuinely offering you empathy.
Yeah, and God, you know, next time you're free, I'd just like to talk. I'd like to feed you some videos and just talk to you about Mr. Grill, because you're gonna be a big. I know you're gonna be a big fan. You talk about anybody who's watching this that came here for this conversation is hearing the same shit that I'm hearing, it, and the lights just going off like, oh, that's Mr. Grill shit right there.
Well, that's amazing, and I would love that. I think that would be really fun, and I would bring popcorn.
You've never seen anybody like this, I promise. Like already.
No, I truly haven't. I've genuinely never heard of Mr. Girl before watching this clip. I know nothing.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna be sending you stuff.
Okay, sounds good.
Tell Alex thank you for being patient. I know you guys had plans, and Josh the Zealot said one of us.
Wow, I feel so welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, next time you're free, I know you're super busy, and I know I gotta be patient and wait for it. But I promise I'll be more prepared this time. But to be fair, my stream didn't crash once, and I just didn't want to tell you, like, hey, stop what you're saying. I gotta fix my stream. And also, it's embarrassing when my stream breaks on its own, too.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm so grateful that your stream did not break. And yes, I will review my wonky ass schedule and let you know.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And the guy who said he was really excited for this to happen showed up too. And
Yay!
when this goes up on YouTube, I'm sure it'll be one of my more liked videos.
I hope that folks can meaningfully engage with it and hold the complexities and the nuances of this shit and not just go with like our first thoughts. I think we need to sit with stuff and be critical about it. So yeah, I hope that it's worthwhile, and I hope that it has offered different takes even if you don't agree with them.
Yeah. And if anybody hate watches this, I was fucking right the whole time. Alright? I genuinely thought she was gonna come in here and be hold a lot more different ideas than me, but Mr. Girl grows on ya.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alright. I'm gonna stop streaming now. Thanks, guys. Goodbye.